Shoebat, who, along with his dad and others, have been working to shine the light of truth and the light of reality on what's happening with the Muslim, Arab, Egyptian, whatever world and how it reacts and interacts with ours. Ted, how are you this evening?
I'm very good, sir. It's good to be on.
It's always a pleasure to have you with us. Ted, I really don't know where to start because, you know, a lot of us are focused now on North Korea with their threats of launching a nuclear weapon. And of course, North Korea is a weird country, and the guy running it is frankly a freak. But
yeah,
when you get extremist thought processes like his, like that of the Islamist, they can and will and have done just insane things, and just the things that go boom are getting bigger, right or wrong.
Mm-hmm. Well, we should always look after people who talk about destroying other countries, of course, but it seems to me that people usually focus more on the loudmouth in the blog. People like to focus more on the dog that barks instead of the dog that bites. So I think, of course, we should focus on countries like North Korea and Iran, but we should also, I think, pay more attention to countries that are very quiet and very beguiling to the Western media, such as nations as Turkey, countries like Saudi Arabia, which are considered to be allies to the United States, but in fact are supporting many Islamist movements around the world, and they are also orchestrating much of the fundamentalist Islamic movements within the world right now, especially the Syrian revolution, and especially the Muslim Brotherhood's control in Egypt. These types of situations are orchestrated by countries like Saudi Arabia, but as I've said, Saudi Arabia is considered to be a friend of the United States, and Obama and President Bush and many presidents before them had no problem in discussing with these governments. But when it comes to Iran, we always see that as a very evil nation, which it is, but we should also apply our same discernment upon nations that are quiet and don't seem to be harmful to us.
All right, let's. You mentioned something. Let's go there for now. You mentioned the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, and we're going to talk about what's happening there, because I think we have chaos, and we might well see out-and-out war in Egypt between the factions. But is Saudi Arabia in favor of the Muslim Brotherhood running Egypt?
Well, of course they are. They have been amongst the greatest funders toward the Muslim Brotherhood movement going on right now in Syria. The revolution in Syria right now is not just some mixed group of people who all want to fight for freedom. The revolution is a cause primarily for the Muslim Brotherhood, because the Muslim Brotherhood has two major homes, really. One is Egypt, and the second is Syria. So Egypt has already been taken. The next country they want is Syria. And so the revolutionaries, they want to establish the Sharia hegemony under the Muslim Brotherhood. If the revolution succeeds, which I believe it very well can, Syria will be another Muslim Brotherhood nation. Now, who is supporting the rebels the most? It's the Saudis, the Turks, NATO, the United Nations, and even the United States. And I've made this quite clear. While Obama wants to destroy the Second Amendment, he wants to give the Second Amendment to the jihadists in Syria. So he thinks that Americans shouldn't have guns, but Muslim terrorists should. And like I've said, the United States sold over $30 million of weapons to the Saudis. The Saudis gave most of those weapons to the jihadists. In fact, there was one American politician whose name goes as anonymous, stated that most of the weapons going to Syria are going into the hands of the people that America doesn't like, the jihadists. So America knows this for a fact. America knows what's going on. But the Saudis, like I've said, they are supporting the revolution the most, I would say, or at least amongst the most. And also Turkey. They're flowing in millions and millions of dollars of weapons. Why? Because the Saudis, they want to see the Muslim Brotherhood reign, because they know that the Muslim Brotherhood is a Sunni organization, for one, and that it will not be a friend of Iran. In fact, the Muslim Brotherhood hates Iran. The Saudis, there's nothing that scares the Arabs more than a Shiite in power. So they want to get rid of all the Shiite governments in the Middle East and make an entire Sunni confederacy where the threat of a Shiite government is completely absent. And if the Syrian revolution succeeds, that will greatly weaken the Iranian power in the Middle East, because Syria is much more powerful than Iran. It has more weapons, more chemical weapons than Iran. And if you make Syria into a Sunni nation, which is what the Saudis want, then Iran will be greatly, greatly crippled.
Now, Iran and whatever, 2/3 of Iraq are Shia. Mm-hmm. Where are other Shia strongholds in the Middle East, if any place?
Well, the Shia, like you said, is in Iran. There's many. There's also a Shiite in Syria. There's a very large Shiite minority in Syria, but nevertheless, over 80% of the Middle East is Sunni. The Shiite are a minority overall, so they are the underdogs in this. So the Sunnis have the advantage of winning because they have the numbers and they have the influence. Nations that have also the nation that has, I think, the greatest amount of influence in the Middle East is Turkey. Now, why do I say Turkey as opposed to Saudi Arabia? Because the Arabs are, by and large, hated amongst the Middle East, even by Sunnis. The Sunnis don't like the Arabs because the Arabs live a life of extreme and total luxury. So they don't see them as fundamentalist Muslims, as zealous Muslims fighting for the cause. But the Turks don't have that appearance. The Turks are giving them what they want. The Turks want to see a militant form of Islam. The Turks don't live in the luxury as the Saudi royal family does. Now, here's another thing I also want to make clear. That last week, we're seeing the Sunni countries working together in very, very effective ways. For example, last week we saw Morsi pay a visit for the first time. It's a very historical moment. Pay a visit to the president of North Sudan, Omar al-Bashir, who is the Hitler of Africa. This man has massacred over 3 million Christians. But Morsi has allied with them. This is something that Mubarak never did, never would have done. But Morsi did it with full compliance, wholeheartedly. He met with Omar al-Bashir, and now Morsi is saying that pretty soon there's going to be a road built which will connect both North Sudan and Egypt. Now people say, well, this is just for commerce. No, it's not. This is a foreshadowing event, this road, which will help build this Sunni confederacy. Now why would Morsi want a road connecting Egypt to North Sudan? Why would he want a road connecting South Sudan as well? Because South Sudan is considered to be an enemy. It is a Christian nation. And there is nothing that South Sudan is so hated by the Islamists that they want nothing more than to see that country burn to the ground. They want to invade South Sudan. In fact, Omar al-Bashir has spoken numerous times on invading South Sudan, destroying Christianity, making it into a Muslim country, and forcing all the Christians to live under the dhimmitud, living under the Pact of Umar, in which a church cannot be higher than a mosque, a Christian can never ride a horse, he has to ride a mule, a Christian has to walk at all times on the side, near the gutter. He can never walk on a sidewalk. A Christian has to wear a distinct cross on his body to distinguish him as a Christian. Very, very similar to how the Nazis ruled in the Third Reich. This is the type of society that Morsi wants to establish. And this is why he is meeting with Omar al-Bashir. This is why you see the Saudis and the Turks giving tons and tons of cash and tons of weapons to the Syrians, because they want to see Sunni Islam become the supreme sect.
All right, Brent?
Yeah, the Muslim Brotherhood is interesting in that the Muslim Brotherhood is kind of like a rabid dog. And there are always people who think that, well, we'll get these rabid dogs and then we'll control them. We'll keep them properly trained. But it doesn't work that way. There are very, very good sources of mine that have indicated that the global elite, the heads of the oil companies and such, want the Muslim Brotherhood not only to make its mark in Egypt and Syria and Lebanon, etc., but they want to actually go and they want to change the government in Saudi Arabia. And what Ted said is absolutely true. Saudi Arabia is supporting the Muslim Brotherhood. But what's going to happen if the globalists have their way, ultimately, is that the rabid dog is going to bite the hand that has fed it. And I think there's a good chance if the Syrian revolution is successful, if the globalists efforts are successful from country to country, apparently their last target is Saudi Arabia. And if that happens, you know, I think the Saudi royal family are going to have to look back and say, well, look at these rabid dogs we supported, and now they've bitten us. It could well happen in the Middle East. Ted?
Yeah, I think the way he described it is very, very accurate. And another country, and I know I've said this on the show before, but I can't emphasize this enough. The nation we also have to look at is Jordan. Now, the gentleman who just spoke made a very good point. He said we need to focus. He described the Muslim Brotherhood as a very clever but rabid dog, and that's exactly what I was saying in the beginning of the show. We need to focus on the dogs that are quiet. Iran is a very, very loud, barking dog. The same thing can be applied to North Korea. Now, of course, we should focus on them, but we should focus more on the dog that doesn't bark, because those dogs have something to hide. The Muslim Brotherhood has something to hide. Saudi Arabia has something to hide. Turkey definitely has something to hide. And we need to analyze these countries more so than Iran and North Korea, because they have something that they're obscuring something, they're hiding something, and we need to find out what that is. And because whatever it is, they don't want us to know about, because it's dangerous. Now, Jordan is a country which has not been given the attention it deserves. Since 2011, the Muslim Brotherhood has been trying so much with great effort, to take the government of Jordan, take the government of King Abdullah II. They have been trying more now than ever. So expect Jordan to become another Egypt. Not in that Jordan will become an Islamic nation conclusively, but that you will begin to see mass rioting in the street, you will begin to see mass protests and revolutions, and quite possibly you'll see CNN and MSNBC rush down to Jordan and see, well, these people are doing another great revolution for the cause of democracy, only to see that revolution lead to the cause of Islamic tyranny.
Now, when you mention MSNBC and CNN, you frustrate me because you're telling the truth, and that is that these are arms, tools, trained dogs, whatever you want to call them, of those who would do in America, because all of this, the objective is not Israel, the objective is not Saudi Arabia, the objective is the world, and the big speed bump for these people is in fact the United States. So all of this is aimed at eventually making America a Muslim nation, a Sharia nation, and of course in this president that we have, they have a willing participant in that concept. Could you address that?
You know, I wrote an article about this a number of years ago, saying that if Sharia is ever established in America in any sort of form, be it its fullest form or a form akin to Sharia, it will be established not by Muslims. It will be established by leftists. Because right now you have leftists talking about censoring certain types of speech that may offend certain people. Well, we all know what that means. Meaning, stop Christians from exposing the sinister and evil intentions of Islam. That's exactly what this is about. So the left wants to censor free speech. They want to censor the Second Amendment, yet they, like I said, they are supporting the Islamists, giving them weapons. They are giving them the ability to speak their mind, but not us. In fact, the government wants to deem us as terrorists. They already have. So we're in a very dangerous predicament. Now, what is the cause of this? What is the cause of such leftist influence in America, or what is the cause of the left given such liberty to support the people who would want to kill us? The answer is a weak and decaying church. The answer is heresy, which has abounded throughout the United States. Throughout America, especially in the modern day evangelical church, the pastors are teaching that as Christians, being a Christian has absolutely nothing to do with with the actions that we take here on earth. And many pastors are teaching this rubbish, that Christians should not judge other religions, that Christians should stay away from politics, that Christians need to stop looking so judgmental and so legalistic. Now, let's say we listen to all of them. If the Christians in America stop doing action, if you stop doing action, Mr. Solomon, or any of the gentlemen on the show stop doing what they're doing, what's going to happen? The left will get involved in politics. The left will continue to do what they're doing. The left will not stop fighting against Christianity, fighting against the morals that make this country, and they will soon overrun the entire society. The only reason why the left hasn't done it is because of certain people like you, Mr. Solomon, or everyone on this show, doing what we're doing and being a hindrance to the leftist cause, which will lead in turn to Sharia being implemented in this country, because the church in this country is like the cultural immune system. If you take it away, all that is needed to destroy the country is a little bit of bacteria. That bacteria is leftism, and that bacteria is Islamicism.
Well, that's well said, and I will steal that from you. Chief, there's an article about the military sending out emails. Tell us about that.
Well, the Army is now labeling Christian ministries as domestic hate groups. And what I see here, our guest host has mentioned tonight, Barack Obama. And first of all, Barack Obama, in my opinion, he views, first of all, Americans, us, as the enemy. And it was mentioned earlier that Barack Obama wants to disarm us while he's at the same time arming terrorists in the Middle East. But I believe that Barack Obama looks at those terrorists like they're the freedom fighters. They're the ones fighting the oppressive us. So what this says to me, that if the Army is going to label Christian ministries as hate groups, this is another leg that's going to eventually lead to the elimination of us. And so now we have the Barack Obama's fighting to take away our guns. Barack Obama supporting the terrorists in the Middle East and arming them. He's also replaced many of our good military leaders with leaders that will follow his orders, as unconstitutional as they may be, and now putting information in writing and out there that, just like NASA, for example, NASA's main mission is to promote Muslim whatever's outreach and blah, blah, blah on every planet, including this one. And now we have our own military saying that Christian ministries are domestic hate groups. This is just another step towards what was just said, the elimination of the Christian stumbling block in Barack Obama and the left's plans to dominate the world.
Brant?
I think Steve said that very, very well, and I would have to agree with him. You know, the solution, as simple as it is not easy. The solution is, like Ted said, that you, Stan, Steve, me, and people like us need to continue to resist and need to continue to foment resistance. Resistance is not anti-government. Resistance is resistance to what's simply wrong. Resistance to lies, resistance to misrepresentation, resistance to slavery, you know, resistance to things that we should resist. And you know, speaking as a Christian, that in the Bible we are told to don the armor and be soldiers for God. Even Christ himself said he did not come to the world to make peace. He came to tell the truth, and the truth would set father against son, mother against daughter, and brother against brother, because there are people who are invested in never allowing the truth to see the light of day. That's what we need to continue to do, and it will only get harder. It will only get more difficult, and we need to have our resolve real clear so that we just don't stop.
Ted, before we run out of time, tell people how to get a hold of you and follow your work.
Of course, you can go at Shoebat.com. You can also go to TedShoebat.com, and you can get the latest book called For God or For Tyranny. That is For God or For Tyranny. For God or For Tyranny? Yeah, For God or For Tyranny.
Right. Now, that reminds me of one of Mark Levin's book, talking about the soft tyranny of liberalism. But it's becoming hard tyranny these days. All right, we just have a couple minutes left. Let me ask a couple questions. There was all kinds of talk, you among them, that said Assad can't last another week, another 2 weeks, another month. Well, it's all kind of quieted down. We don't see any headlines. We don't see any coverage. Right. We don't see anything. Why? What's happened?
Well, I think that's a good question. I think this is my belief, is that the liberals in the beginning, you had Barbara Walters and a bunch of other cronies in the leftist media saying, well, look how great Obama is. He's really on the side of the revolutionaries, and the revolutionaries are on the side of freedom. Well, as time went on, it was quickly realized that the revolution was not a revolution for freedom, it was a revolution for tyranny, and they were cutting people's heads off in the street in mid-daylight. So the left, I'm assuming, cowered away from that and said, well, we can't be involved in this. This is way too obvious. It's way too obvious what this is about. Let's just pull away, put it under the rug, hush, hush, and people will soon forget about it. Well, it's true. People have forgotten about the revolution. I have not, and I continue to research and write about it because things are going on every single minute. Beheadings, church burnings, Christians being killed, tens of thousands of Christians being forcibly exiled out of their homes by rebels, rebels breaking into people's homes and slaughtering them. This is an Islamic takeover that is very similar and reminiscent to what took place in the Middle East in the 10th and 11th centuries, in which you had Arabs and Seljuk Turks take over Syria, take over Persia, take over the Holy Land, and take Christians and kill them by the thousands, and take Christian boys and make them slaves. Now, the Muslim power was wounded after in World War I after the British crushed the Ottoman Empire. But that is now reviving, and we are seeing the same Islamic expansion and despotism revive itself in a very, very strong and aggressive counterattack.
We will see what we will see. Thank you for keeping us abreast, Ted Shoebat, and we look forward to having you back. Thank you, my friend.
God bless you, sir.
We'll be back with more.